Hello, and thank you for joining me. So, I have some pretty exciting news. I was given the opportunity to design a fixed blade for TAKCOM Knives. Now, quickly, just want to give a shout out to Shane for giving me this opportunity because this is something I've always wanted to do with the company, and again, just super excited. And as you guys can see right here, I have a few sketches on paper. Now, I had an idea for a fixed blade for quite some time. I just never really sat down and focused on it, but these are some of the ideas I had. So you can see I definitely needed a harpoon. That's just a weakness of mine on a pocket knife, so I definitely had to include it. Although I did test it out to see what it looked like without a harpoon, which I think still looks really clean. But very rough state, and I even tried to do a reverse tanto, but I lean more towards a more of a utilitarian shape, more of a daily use, self-defense kind of blade shape, and this is what I came up with. And I'll talk a little bit more about why I angled the blade downward, but this was the start of it. And then since I really liked this top one, I went ahead and did some finer sketches or more refined sketches. But you can see here just a very clean and simple design. I like when a knife has clean lines and they just work together. I think it just makes it look more pleasant to the eye. I did a Warncliffe style blade on this sketch here. It's a little rounded as you can see here, but I ended up going more just basically a straight or reverse tanto, if you will. But I went from that and I finalized a sketch right here. So this is basically the final look on paper. So really happy with this. And in my head, I had the idea that it would be very comfortable in hand. So I just kind of used some of the features that I personally liked in certain knives in my collection. So I just kind of blended it all together and came up with this. Now, this blade shape was highly inspired by the Spyderco Yojimbo or Yojimbo, designed by Michael Janich. A great video on why he designed the Yojimbo or the Yojimbo the way it is designed. I'll leave a link to that video down below. I think you guys will get a lot of cool information on that video. I definitely did, and again, it inspired this blade shape. So really happy with this one. I sent this over to Shane at TAKCOM Knives, and he was really happy with it as well. Now, I ended up cutting out this design here. You can see out of some paper, pretty close to the original. And quickly want to mention that in the first sketch here, you can see that the end of the handle is pointing outward. So it's angled outward towards the end. But I realized in the reverse grip, it wouldn't be as comfortable. So you can see here, I changed it. So it's slanting downward towards the back end. So in the reverse grip, it actually is more comfortable. You can see your thumb lands on a flat spot instead of something pointy and sharp. Now I went ahead and traced this onto a thicker piece of cardboard just to kind of get it in hand, see how it feels, see if there's any weird, strange spots on the blade itself. But for some reason I can't find that thick piece of cardboard. But anyways, I transferred this onto some cheap material in the shop and I created some scales for it. Again, I made this within an hour, so it's not the greatest, but here it is in 3D form or in the real world, if you will. But really surprised how good it feels in hand. Again, in my head, it just seemed like it would fit great, but now that I actually have it in hand, it feels really good. And the finger choil and the end of the harpoon here was something I thought would be very good once you're gripping and choking up on it. So luckily it worked. Again, ideas change from your mind onto paper and then into reality. So I lucked out on the ergos. So your index finger and your thumb really lock in so that when you're penetrating or thrusting forward, you're not going to slip off of this knife and then get onto the cutting edge. So that was my my main inspiration behind the harpoon and the fairly large finger choil. Now, as for the handle, I kept it very neutral and clean. It does taper off, but again, really, really comfortable in hand. Reverse grip is really good as well. Again, that flat spot, super, super comfortable for your thumb to land on. So there's some minor tweaks that I'm going to do for the ergos. It fits really well in hand, but I want it to fit even better. As you can see, I did bevel the front of the scales at 2 points, so towards the top and the bottom, so that when you pinch grip either forward, it's comfortable, and then even if you pinch grip on top, it's comfortable in hand as well. Gave some bevels at the end, and then some smaller bevels on bottom and top. But this material is 1/8 inch thick, which is the blade stock I'd like to use on the fixed blade. Then I also use 1/8 inch thick scales, or material for the scales. So I'd say the thickness is really, really good. Again, just locks in hand very, very well. Now, the reason I angled the blade downward is so that when you get it in hand, you don't have to bend your wrist in order to penetrate or stab. It's basically in poking or stabbing position. Let me show you real quick, I guess what I'm trying to get at. But with a regular knife, this is a comfortable hold, but if you want to stab with it, you have to tilt your wrist and then push forward. But since this knife's blade is pointing downward, again, you're in a comfortable hold and you're ready to go. So that is the design behind the downward pointing blade. And also, I think it looks aggressive. Again, this was just something I had in mind and just still fine tuning it, but I think it's going to be a good one. Now, the only thing I really have an issue with is the harpoon here. I want it to be a little bit higher. Let me grab something flat here. You can see the spine of the handle, or the top of the handle, is flat, and there is a little gap right there on the harpoon. So what I'm going to do is raise that harpoon a little bit higher so that it has about the same amount of room here on the finger choil. So that way it really, really locks in and it just feels really secure. Now this little flat spot right behind the harpoon is going to be jimped. And I'm going to put jimping, so you guys can see from the drawing there. I'm going to put jimping on the top, so center of the harpoon, and then the center of the front of the blade, and then some jimping on the back. But again, still going to fine tune it. The pinch grip on this is really, really good. That was another design aspect to this knife. Again, just really want it to be utilitarian and very useful throughout the day. But when you pinch grip and put your finger on the jimping section of the harpoon, you'll be able to get a better grip and get those finer cuts. And if you want to get even more control over the tip, you can pinch the blade itself and get on that jimping in the front and then really get some more controlled cuts. My main focus on this design was for it to be very, very useful throughout the day. Also a very useful self-defense weapon. Again, the slashing motion and that video that I mentioned earlier that I'll link down below, I think you'll understand after you watch that video why I did it this way. And even in the reverse grip, this blade it's still angled, so when it's grabbing material, it's going to be forcing it into the blade itself. So I tried to blend both as best as I could. I think I got there. Let me know down below what you guys think of this design. If there's anything you might want to add or see done with it. But again, super, super excited to get this into production. But before that, I want to mention that I will be doing a final prototype out of G10. I'll be using black G10 for the blade, and then I'll actually use some hardware to hold different types of scale material, and I'm going to do different textures and whatnot. But really, really excited to get that prototype done and then send it over to TAKCOM Knives, and then they're going to do an actual prototype out of steel and different materials for the handle. I'll also put a link down below where you can check out TAKCOM Knives. This is one of their OTFs. I picked this one up at Blade Show, Texas. Just a really cool, chunky little OTF. Really like it. Great action. They also do the unnamed, which I'm currently customizing. But again, I'll leave a link down below to their website. Awesome stuff, especially for the price point. But super, super excited. Can't wait to get this in your guys' hands and see what you guys think of it. As always, thank you for the support, and I will see you guys on the next one.